Welcome to Conversations with OLA. My name is Minerva Perez, and I'm the Executive Director of OLA. OLA stands for Organización Latinoamericana. We are a nonprofit that was founded in 2002, a Latino-focused nonprofit, but the work that we do benefits the entire East End, and we are proud to do this work. And I want to explain a little bit about the show and how it came to be. We have been so blessed and fortunate to work with members of our community, organizations, collaborating with organizations on the work that we do, and we just found that it was such an overwhelming bounty that why not share these relationships? How can we just keep going so quickly through the course of our day and our week and our month and our year and not be able to stop for a moment and share some of the folks that we get to work with and learn more about them? What makes them do this work? How did they end up on the East End of Long Island? Who are they? And so pretty much as a connection point between the people that we'll have on the show and the work that they might do with OLA or the volunteer work that they might do or the collaborations. So that's going to be a constant of the show. I co-host this in English, and Sandra Dunn, our Associate Director, she will do her shows mainly in Spanish, and sometimes we shake it up a little bit. And so that's how we're doing Conversations with OLA, and we are so happy that you are watching. And if you would like to reach out to OLA about anything that you're hearing or learning, no matter when you're watching this show, you can always call 631-899-3441. Look for us on our Facebook page or go to our website, www.olaofeasternlongisland.org. And without further ado, I want to introduce you to Tom Oleszczuk. He is a crisis counselor for OLA's Project Hope, which is a helpline that was established through a FEMA model. So FEMA, in conjunction with the state of New York, decided based on numbers of mortality and sickness that Suffolk County qualified as a region that was very, very negatively and sadly impacted by COVID. And because of that crisis need, that OLA was able to apply to become a provider of Project Hope. And we'll talk more about what that actually means. But we were very proud to be given that role and that responsibility to cover the entire East End in English and in Spanish for Latinos and non-Latinos. And Tom has been such a tremendous part of this team, this crisis counselor team, and he's going to talk more about that. But Tom Oleszczuk, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about you first, the work you've done before you came to OLA, and your connection to the East End.
Well, thank you, Minerva, for having me. It's a delight. I would like to say that, first of all, before I go into me, that OLA has always been a sparkling organization in my eyes for the work it's done for the community, as well as in particular for the Latinos out here on the East End. The Project Hope grant provided me with an opportunity that I didn't have to work more closely with you and to give back to the community, and I really appreciate that. So where should I start in terms of about me?
I want to know more about Tom, and I want to learn right now, which is essentially live for me. But talk to me about what you've done before and who you are.
Okay, well, I actually was a college professor for many years, and I was a college professor of political science, and as they say, I published and perished. But on the other hand, the phoenix arose, and I went into information technology and became eventually a director of academic computing at Yeshiva University. And then about 12 years ago, I retired and came out here. And it was something that we thought about. I could have worked more in IT, but we love the East End. We had come out for a week or two at a time, generally to Montauk, and we just love the natural endowments of the East End and the people, and we decided, well, let's give it a shot. Yeah. And we moved out here, and in retirement, I was doing a number of more artistic things, including poetry and photography, as well as playing and teaching chess to kids.
I didn't know. Okay, excellent.
So my background has been a bit varied, and I've sort of seen a whole variety of people in a variety of situations, and particularly during the years that I was in information technology, we had a help desk, and so I first of all participated directly, and then eventually managed it. And you see people that generally call for some good reason, and they're usually upset. And part of the job is to make them feel more comfortable with their circumstance and to try and help them to find a solution. That is in so many ways like what Project Hope does, and what OLA does as well, through your phone lines. So
let's talk a little bit more about Project Hope, and I want to get to know more and more about Tom as we continue to get to work together, and I'm so lucky to work with you, and also know your amazing wife, Heidi, and how connected you are to this community in so many ways, and how what advocates you both are with regard to Shinnecock Nation as well. And it's wonderful to watch what you do and the way you do it, because you do it with a lot of love and a lot of respect, and it's really wonderful.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Yes, Heidi and I have been active in a social activism kind of way since we moved out here, and one of the things that we discovered was there is this indigenous people that are here. When we came to vacation, we never realized it. It was something that we had to live here to start to understand that. I suppose when we were driving out on the highway and we saw, Shinnecock Canal and such, we figured, well, it's like Massachusetts. It's an Indian word that that the colonists took on to describe an area. We didn't realize that there was actually a community, a very poor community that was located here. So we began to work with them as allies, and we discovered as well that there was an increasingly active Black Lives supporting movement here on the East End, and we've gotten involved with that as well. And it's both of us kind of share the values of community and of helping those who could use the help.
And use the allyship.
Yes, absolutely. And we both have been to town board meetings in Southampton, speaking out in favor of gravesite protection, which was an issue that shocked us when we found out that New York is one of 4 states that does not have on the books a law that says if you're digging in your backyard and you come across human bones, okay, you're supposed to do something. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We don't have that law. Wow. And so we worked with the Shinnecock Nation to pressure the town board, and eventually they did pass regulations that provide sort of a minimum amount of respect for the dead. So.
Well, getting to watch some of the work that you've been doing out here and knowing how committed and connected you are is why I wanted to reach out to you and see if you would want to be part of this team, this Project Hope team. And when we realized that we were going to be given this role as provider through this grant, that we brought on about 20 people, which was a lot of people, but we had all this bounty of these amazing folks in our community, all East End folks, Spanish speaking, English speaking, Portuguese speaking, all different backgrounds, Shinnecock, African American, Latino, white. You know, we have this whole range, and we ran it at that capacity for a while, and then at a certain point when we were going to be up for expansion to go beyond what the terms of the grant originally were, then we kind of scaled it down a little bit and wanted to maintain and retain about a 9 or 10 person team. And so you've been a part of that pretty much from the beginning. And so I want to talk a little bit now about, and Project Hope. Talk about it. I might jump in and maybe, you know, give some other perspective there, but talk about what Project Hope is. What is it in our community? What is it all about? What's happening with it?
Project Hope is a multi-pronged effort to help the community deal with the enduring crisis of the pandemic and all of its consequences, you know, including lost jobs, including you know, housing insecurity, including you know, difficulties you know, getting what you need. And what Project Hope has is we have a helpline. It's 631-500-0837.
I'm going to pick up one of these little flyers that we have right now, and I'm going to share it with the camera here.
Yeah.
This is one of several flyers and pieces that have been put together. A lot of what Project Hope is making sure is available in terms of its outreach is also to adolescents and anyone who might not feel as comfortable sharing their information. Your information is not asked for. You can be completely anonymous, but we know that some folks, adolescents and other folks, would not feel as comfortable texting a line if it's going to show their number. So we've actually printed on the back of our postcard how you can block your phone number so that your texting to this Project Hope line is not going to be showing who you are or your number for any, you know, any future reason. The helpline, in addition to being sort of resources that people might need, is also if people are just feeling isolated or that they don't have anyone to talk about a particular thing that's happening with them or an emotion that they're feeling, that it's there for them, even if it's not about sort of connecting the dots. It could just be, I don't know where to go with this feeling or this thought. And maybe folks even have their own therapists, but they just right now want a separate avenue to kind of voice what they're feeling. Project Hope is that, and you are one of the crisis counselors. We have a total of, I think at this point, 8 crisis counselors, and we have 2 MSWs that work on the team. And in addition to those 8 crisis counselors, the MSWs are there to support the needs and how things are flowing with the crisis counselors. All counselors have been given training through the state in order to do this work well. And how would you kind of talk about some of the training or what you've gotten from that experience?
Okay. Yes, the training has been quite intense as well as intensive. It was, you know, because of the nature of the pandemic back a year ago, and it was online, but the training was not only through New York State, but also through something called the Center for Practice Innovation, which is a cooperative venture between the state and the, I believe it's the New York Psychiatric Institute or Psychoanalytic Institute. And we were trained, you know, through these courses on how to not try and solve the problems, but rather to listen to people. It's sort of active and sympathetic listening. And the underlining FEMA model is one of resilience.
Building resilience.
Yes, that 80% of the people that are going to call really have it within them to deal with their own problems. They just don't know where to turn and which direction to go in and what is the most important thing to deal with first. The other 20% need really qualified professional, medical, or other kinds of care. And we filter them into the right direction. If need be, we will conference in one of the MSWs or if there's a child involved, we can telephone conference in, the Childhood Protective Services, and to have an immediate, interaction. As you were saying, our helpline is anonymous and confidential and free, and it's the kind of thing that it's for people who just don't know where to turn, and our normal response when we hear somebody talking is to try and help them to solve it.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you do this?
The fixer.
Oh, well, you shouldn't feel that way. Well, no, we validate. Okay, it's a question of I understand you feel that way. That's something that a lot of people feel in these circumstances, and tell me more. So that also, okay, we are not diagnosticians. Okay, unlike psychiatric help, we are trained not to put people into boxes and not to think, oh, well, this is a schizophrenic or this is a sociopath or whatever, but rather just to deal with the person, to listen to them, and to try and help them understand what their situation is indirectly, not by forcing it upon them. And we do have a very large database of organizations that can provide specific resources for specific problems, everything from food insecurity through housing, through drug abuse, through education and so on. And we will, in the course of a phone call, we will say, well, it sounds to me that you may feel that that the problem of food is number one on your list. Is that true? Yes, yes. Well, would you like some information? Would you like some phone numbers to call that could help you to deal with that problem? And they could say no. Okay. It's not like, oh yes, okay, yeah, so you're hungry. Okay, well, here are 5 numbers. Yeah. Okay. And the logic of it is, again, people have within themselves, resilience. They just don't know about it. And what you want to do is you want them to realize that they have some power over their lives. Okay. They may not be able to completely change everything. Nobody can. But that they can have an effect on some of the things that are bothering them in the real world. And so I found the training both interesting and challenging. And some of the training had to do with specific groups, the young, LGBTQ. Yes, I always stumble over that because my mind's thinking of, well, what's the next one in line? Rather than
you're the academic there, sir.
Yeah. So, but in those training sessions attuned each of us to some of the special problems, and of course there are there are sessions about, as well about race and ethnicity, and the need to be sensitive to cultural differences and to the differences in circumstances. And one of the things that we don't really say is, oh yeah, I understand, I've been there. No, you haven't. Each person is different. And you express sympathy rather than sort of cognitive agreement.
No, I think it's fantastic. Where OLA kind of helped to jump a little bit from some of that training was also to include some other aspects of training, such as trafficking and domestic violence. And then we brought in some of our partnerships with local law enforcement so that local law enforcement would feel comfortable. We wanted local law enforcement. We've got 10 police departments on the east end of Long Island, and we want to have each of them feel comfortable to either hand these flyers out or business cards out with Project Hope's number, so that whoever they might be encountering, whomever, that they feel has been touched by some degree of crisis, because they're on the ground first in, EMTs, police, to make sure that they can feel comfortable with our program, and to know that if we found ourselves in a very difficult situation, let's say it was someone at a home and they were going to do harm to someone else, that we felt comfortable immediately doing a conference call in with 911 or with whatever that local police department was, and working with our police departments in a partnership kind of way to say that we want the right thing to happen here, and we'll do what we need to do to make sure that everyone's safe and everyone's cared for. And we went over those protocols. So we've created emergency protocols to address some of the hardest scenarios that we could ever think of encountering, and scenarios that we know that we've encountered at OLA, certainly, the work that I've done before at the retreat. So we've kind of set up those kinds of trainings in a term almost above and beyond based on what we know about our East End. I want to highlight the fact that the relationship, the reason why OLA even went for this grant, because we had a lot going on, we didn't have to go for this particular grant, was because the emotional piece of this is an emotional helpline. It is a way to do this in a way that it's not just connecting the dots. We're not operators on the other end saying, oh, you need this, there it is. That availability and access in Spanish as well as English is extremely important with people that have that kind of empathetic mindset and training and support. So, and beyond having the helpline is that OLA on the other end of it, we're actually doing a lot of this work. So whereas it is difficult often to find what organizations are on the ground doing the day-to-day work behind the crisis. You have no food, all right, how are we going to work this out? Project Hope gets to say, hey, OLA, here's this person, or this person's going to call you, and that we're ready on the other end of that to figure out, are we going to connect them up with some of the volunteers that we have? Are we going to connect them up, which we always do, to pantries? But beyond that, in terms of supplemental, are we going to be able to get them a Stop and Shop food card that we've worked hard to get from United Way and other organizations to supplement whatever they can't get in a pantry? If they need support with further mental health and clinical kind of support, how OLA is going to work on that. If they are facing an illegal eviction, how is OLA going to work with local law enforcement and local lawyers to make sure that they are not forced out of their home if they should not be forced out of their home? So OLA is on the other end of so many of these crisis needs. It allows this kind of collaboration to be such a dynamic one. Because we only have a few minutes left, I want to talk about the fact that Project Hope has now been extended through OLA's Project Hope twice now, and I'd like it to be extended indefinitely. We've seen that the kind of work that Tom and this entire team has been doing across the entire East End has been working with youth, working with disabled youth, working with libraries, working with elderly through senior centers, working just through school districts, doing yoga classes. The whole focus being on resilience, building resilience, and kind of tapping back into your health and your joy, that there's no other way that this is happening in a consistent way with one organization touching all of these different aspects of our community and doing it the way that you guys are doing it right now, run by Melissa Vogt and Jeanette Monsanto, the two MSWs, and with our team of 8 crisis counselors. It should continue. This approach should continue. It is based on a crisis model through FEMA, but what a very healthy thing to have in a community, so that I know that you guys get to bring that aspect of things, the connectivity, the support, the emotional support, the love, the care. And yeah, OLA gets to focus a bit more on the advocacy and some of the nitty-gritty, some of the other stuff that we have to do. But having Project Hope out there is kind of just sort of this heart center that should continue to exist. And with just a few minutes left, tell me why this should continue. And I don't want to end in a bad note, but I don't want it to discontinue, but tell me why it should continue to be something that we can offer to our full East End. And I want to remind everyone that Tom Oleszczuk is not Latino, and how important it was for OLA to bring on members of our community in this capacity, so all members of our community could feel comfortable reaching out and knowing that, sometimes that might be what it takes. This person might have more of my experience, or I might feel more comfortable. And it doesn't always work out that way, that everyone has to look like each other or have the same kind of experience, but sometimes it helps to get the ball rolling. So tell me, why should this continue?
Okay. Well, it seems to me that there is not only a whole set of problems around COVID, but that generally speaking, even pre-pandemic, there are needs that have been neglected by the by the government at all levels, and needs that private organizations and NGOs haven't been able to cover, just because there's so much that needs to be done. And I know that we, in our recent expansion into the community with workshops, we find that there are people that really need to come together in small groups to talk about their problems. That didn't happen before. And it needs to continue for the betterment and health of the community as well as of individuals. We are fulfilling functions that our society needs to have fulfilled, whether or not a lot of people realize that. And I think we're doing a lot of good for a lot of people.
You're doing tremendous good, and you and your entire team, you are just such a needed support system out here. And if we could talk another hour, we'd talk about some of the stories that we hear, about some of the smiles on the faces of the parents and the children that we're engaging with, the work that's happening with youth groups in Hampton Bays, the work that's happening in Amagansett and Montauk and Greenport and Riverhead, the work that we're continuing with libraries. It's such and I almost feel like we're just getting going, and so we'd love to see it continue in whatever capacity. So whether it is specifically through Project Hope, or OLA can pick it up and extend it in another way, we will do our best to do so. Tom, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you everyone for watching, and reach out to OLA, reach out to Project Hope, and we look forward to staying connected.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Minerva. It's been a pleasure.